Hey guys, this is Omni121 here with my 15th battle, and now so I am 1/3 about through this marathon, and I'm actually narrating this after I've narrated the next battle. So I narrated the 16th before 15th, but it doesn't really matter. So here, predicting the taunt, well, I can't really predict it since I just have offensive moves. Don't even have stealth rock, even though it's pretty useful, and I just go for the rock blast. In this generation, Rock Blast doesn't take out the focus sash, even if it hits after. I don't get the 4th hit, but if it did hit after, then it wouldn't have broken the focus sash anyway. This is something they rectified in the 5th generation, which is good. Here, I knew all he could do was basically Stealth Rock or Earthquake, one or the other, and because due to my focus sash, I knew I could survive it. Well, that's what I thought anyway. Golem has the ability Sturdy, which prevents one-hit KOs, but in 5th generation means it always survives on 1 HP. So it's like a built-in focus sash. Unfortunately, I forgot to give this Golem an item, which was a great flaw and affected the game severely because I would have gone for the explosion here and dealt massive amounts to this Celebi, even though you will see it is a defensively bulky Celebi. It would have done at least a half, probably more, since explosion is 500 base power. I had to go for the trick here because I needed to cripple the Celebi as fast as possible. This team can't take it too well, and this is the 3rd time that the Dragon Knight has been given a choice item. I think for either the 2nd or 3rd time, but it's a reoccurring feature I've seen. Here, Granbull is a great physical tank, not so much a wall since it doesn't have a recovery move, but a tank. Look how much Fire Punch does from a Dragon Knight. Barely 30 damage, even after Stealth Rock does 80-ish. That's not at all, because of Intimidate and because it has pretty good defense, and I have given it max HP, max defense. It takes it pretty well. Here I go for the body slam. It does a decent amount with no investment, so if that was a return from max attack, it would have done at least 3/4 double edge. I would if max attack double edge would have done at least 3/4, but then I wouldn't have been able to take the fire punch so well. See, I'm going into my special tank. Normally Hariyama's are physical tanks, but I had a special one since I already had a Granbull as my physical one. This battle's pretty long, so I'm going to speed up the end. Yeah. So here I will go for the payback because it's super effective against both the Starmie and the Celebi, which means it will do decent damage, and it does about 1/3, not too much, but since I haven't got any, a small amount of attack investment, it does a decent amount. This is where the explosion would have become helpful, because if a payback did that much, which is 200 base power after the switch and being super effective, explosion with 500 base power on an invested attack would have done huge amounts. But that was my action replay hacking error, because I obviously use it because otherwise I wouldn't be able to make so many teams. I haven't mentioned it before, but how else am I supposed to make all these teams so quickly? And it would have taken out the Celebi, and it would have given me a lot less trouble later in the game. Here, my Grumpig does not carry Signal Beam, which is probably what he was predicting. I carry the Shadow Ball. I should probably have carried a Signal Beam, because again, it would have been very useful in taking the Celebi down later in the match. The Shadow Ball does just under 1/4, which I might need it later in the game since I need to know what damage certain things does. And here he just goes straight for the Outrage, which was a pretty safe move to do. He hadn't seen anything that could resist it, and he knew that my only Dragon Knight counter was the Granbull, since he went for the Fire Punch before probably predicting a switch into the Steel type. I know I can take another one, even though it is base 180 power, but after Intimidate, just 120. I say just, but it's still very powerful on the Dragonite. Here I just go for the body slam, just trying to get as much damage as possible on the Dragonite before this scramble goes down, since I could have switched out and switched back in, but it wouldn't have been of much use. I really needed the paralysis there. As you'll see in a little while, the paralysis would have been extremely useful. I could have taken down this Dragonite with another body slam or crunch, which is the last move I carry. It's heal bell, crunch, body slam, and reflect. I'm not 100% sure, but crunch, body slam have decent coverage. Here, this is my favourite Dragonite, one of my favourite set of Gyarados, sorry, not a Dragonite. It used to be on Smogon's list. It hasn't been there for a while now, but I've found it pretty effective. The aim is to Dragon Dance on the Switch, and it's also perfectly EV'd as well. 88 HP EVs allow it to use Substitute down to 1 hit point, which helps in Flail, which is what I have, because it's 200 base power after Dragon Dance, 300 base power, and since you're subbing down to a Lychee Berry, it's actually 400 base power move, which can one hit KO a defensive bulky Vaporeon, which is one of Gyarados' best counters. So Dragon Dance, Substitute, Flail, Waterfall. Waterfall normal hits everything in the game excluding Empoleon, Shedinja, and Dialga and Giratina, but Dialga, Giratina obviously aren't in the OU metagame. So it's a great set to use, and if your opponent does not have any priority attack, it will sweep through the team. Sweep, like, with no worries whatsoever. Not even a max defense Celebi can take a +2 Flail, so 400 base power. Unfortunately, this is where the Dragonite death or fainting would have been so useful, since it wouldn't have been able to extreme speed and I'll be able to sweep his team as if it were nothing. Here I make another mistake. Well, the other ones weren't really mistakes. I go for the Rain Dance. I should have just gone for the Ice Beam, killed off the Dragonite, and then I would have a slight switch advantage. Here, both of us go down due to my Life Orb, and so it becomes a double down. This would have also been a nice thing to... Ice Beam would have done decent amount of damage to the Celebi, so I should have really just kept it in, got a bit of switch advantage, if anything. Here, I'm going to Hariyama. This was actually a misclick, but it paid off drastically, as you'll see. Go for the Whirlwind here, knowing I can't touch Celebi. He can just recover off all the damage and basically take nothing from it. Here he goes for the Fire Blast. I hoped he didn't go for the Air Slash, since that would have done maths damage. And Fire Blast in the rain, and since I have Thick Fat, it would have been, it's basically not very effective. So we have done effectively nothing. Stone Edge, quick knockout, and Hariyama is doing pretty well. He goes into Gardevoir here. Go for the Payback. It was unusual that I was faster, but as you'll see, he actually has the Trick, which but not a choice item, but an Iron Ball, so it makes everything slow as hell, but it can also be used for Fling. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp here. I just go for the Payback, but since he used an offensive move, Payback's power is now doubled, and so it almost takes out the Gardevoir. Will-O-Wisp is doing a bit of damage. He probably should have just gone for the Psychic straight off, and gone for 2 Psychics. As you see, I'll survive this with very low HP. So the Fire Blast miss could have mattered, but not too much, honestly. This is a more of a serious narration. Comment if you prefer this sort of narration or the previous sorts. See here, Signal Beam. If you look how much the Shadow Ball does, Signal Beam is approximately double that power. So wouldn't have KO'd, but it would have done a lot more, and here the Explosion would have been incredibly useful. So really I should have won this battle, but that's what happens when you make quick teams right off the bat. He probably had the wrong hidden power. It doesn't really matter. It takes me off for a grass. I probably could have survived and gone for another Shadow. Could have gone for another Shadow Ball, but in the end doesn't matter too much. I hope you enjoyed the battle. Please comment, rate and subscribe. It ran over a bit, but what can you do?